Under the insert option, you can also do charts. So selecting it is going to open up the chart window and selecting and allowing us to chart out content. And by default, we've got a setup and we can also customize. So the chart type, you can see from the drop-down menu, there's various different default chart types that we can select from. Most commonly, you're going to be using column, but there's also other different types of charts where you can do area, you can do line charts, you can do combo charts, and as well bar and pie charts. So let's select the pie chart. And now we need to select the data range that we want to apply this chart to. So let's go ahead and we're going to select the range of data. And we're going to add a range. I'm going to move the chart down so that we can see the data from our spreadsheet. And the range that I'm going to be using for the data range is going to be the column E values. So we're going to select those values. Google Sheets will as well try to suggest ranges. So you can select the suggested ranges as well. And those will automatically populate the content. So column, and I'll show you what if there are any errors. And in this case, it says that the column 2 must be numeric. So it is throwing an error there. So let's get rid of the column where we didn't have the numeric values. And this will produce a chart because right now we're just using the values of E. So it's representing the content within the pie chart. So if you were to update any one of these numbers, that will also update the chart and the way that the chart looks. The chart is going to be floating, so you can resize it by the corners and you can click on it and you can move it around within the spreadsheet and place it to a location wherever you want to place it within the spreadsheet. So the charts can automatically generate. If you want to edit the data from the chart, you can select the chart itself, and as you hover over it, you're going to see 3 dots in the top right-hand corner. Select those dots, and that allows you to edit the chart. You can also delete the chart. You can download the chart as either a PNG or a PDF file. So if you were to download it as a PDF, that's going to automatically download as a PDF, and then of course you can open that up. And this is going to just provide the chart image as a PDF. Again, going back to the 3 dots in the top right hand side. So those are options to download the chart. You can publish the chart. Publishing the chart will provide you a URL that you can share. You can also use the quick links for Gmail, Facebook, or Twitter of the chart itself. You can embed the chart into HTML code. And also you can update that to be interactive, or you can set it as an image. So let's go ahead and we're going to publish the chart. And I'm just making it smaller. So this is going to be the URL automatically by pressing it. It's going to copy that chart data. And I'm going to paste that into the web URL. So allowing us to interact and select that chart details. Now if I go back into the chart data, if I update it and go back out to the chart and refresh it, it's going to update with the new values for the chart. So within the spreadsheet itself, the values have already updated, and I'll just refresh it. And sometimes you do need to wait a few seconds and then refresh it. And this is now going to give you the new updated values of the chart. Let's make this bigger back again to 200% and go back to insert. So you could also insert a pivot table. So the pivot table, you can insert into a new sheet or existing sheet. So we'll select the new sheet that we're going to insert it into and selecting the data from the pivot table. So let's go ahead and we'll select the data range. Here it's providing some suggestions for the range. So you can either use the suggestions or you can select the columns and rows, the data that you want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and then create the pivot table. Here it's got suggestions, so we can add in rows of content, and then the column could just be the values, and then the rows can be the last. And this will create the pivot table as a new spreadsheet with the data that we had within those columns. So you can insert that as a separate or a new sheet or add it into the existing sheet. Usually I do suggest to create it in a new sheet, but it depending again how you're formatting it. Going back to the chart, you can also publish the chart, and then you can also copy the chart, and you can move the chart into its own sheet. So just as we saw with the pivot table, we can create a new sheet with it. So this is just creating the chart in a new sheet. And then when you do that, you do have the options to edit the chart, publish the chart, download the chart, and delete the chart. So those are the options that you see within the main menu bar of the spreadsheet when you move over to the chart. You can also edit the chart here, and this allows you to customize the chart and how it's being output. You can once again copy the chart and then go back to the main sheet, and from here you could paste the chart. So doing a paste will paste that chart back in here, and once again allow you to have the options to move it around as well as to edit it. So it's going to be actually a separate chart now. So if we do this chart, it's not going to affect the main chart because this is a copy of that chart, and it's using the data the same way that we were within the original chart, but they're actually independent of each other. And if you do ever want to remove the chart, you can just delete here, or you can delete the chart. So either way, this will delete that entire chart from the view. Also for the pivot table, to delete it, if it's in a new spreadsheet, it just acts as any other sheet. So to delete it, you can select delete from there. There's also images, so you can insert an image into the cell or insert image over cells. So if we've got a cell selected and we insert an image into the cell, we have several options to get images. We can either upload it from our computer, we can use the camera, we could insert it by URL, so we could paste the URL. We can select from photos that we've got within our account. We can also select from the Google Drive. If we do have any images on the Google Drive, we can select those. And then we have an option here for a Google image search. So if we want to add in images, and if we select for Google Sheets logo, this is going to show us the Google Sheets logos. So from here, we can select the image that we want to insert. And these are going to be web images. I'm going to close that tab there. So these are going to be web images. So also be careful as you're adding them in to make sure that you have the proper permissions to use the content. So this is the same as going out to the search engine and then finding the image that you want to use. So you got to have be careful with the images that you are using. Make sure that you do have the proper permissions to insert them and use them within your document. And then once you do, you can just go ahead and insert. And that inserted the image into the cell. You can copy it by dragging it and copying it. If we make the cell bigger, that's going to make the image bigger. If we want to insert that image across multiple cells, so we can insert across multiple cells. So we'll select that same Google Sheets logo and select the image that we want to insert. And this is going to insert it across multiple cells. So that will keep it as a floating item where we can drag it and we can cover it across multiple cells and basically hovering on top of the sheet content. So whereas these were directly within the cell, and if we copy them, it's going to copy the cell content, and this is over on top. So much with the charts, the images are going to work the same way, where you can replace the image, you can delete the image, you can assign script to it, you can reset the size, you can use alt text, and you can put the image into selected cell. If the image is in the selected cell, this is just going to be regular cell content. So it's going to act as any other content within the cell. Lastly, there's an option for drawing. So drawing will open up the drawing window within the Google Workspace. And from here, you can draw content. You can also do word art as well, and also add in images. So there's various actions that you can do where you can download the drawing into various formats. You can also use the word art. You can paste content. And these are just some view options where you can show the ruler, show the guides. You can also do the snap to as well. I'm going to make this slightly smaller so we can see the entire window. For the word art, so opening up the drawing and word art, Here you could enter in the word art, so the word that you want to use. Press enter when you're ready, and that's going to load the word art in, so you can move this around within the image. Also under actions now, so now we can download it if we want to download it as a PDF. So that's going to download the current contents of the drawing application. We can also copy, paste, duplicate. We can rotate it. We can flip it horizontally, flip it vertically. So that just flips the current content. We've got some options here to snap it to the grid guidelines as well. We've got the undo, redo. We can zoom in, show the ruler, the guides here as well. If we want to have in a line, so we've got some options for lines where we could do line, arrow, elbow connector, curve, poly, line, and there's also scribble. So scribble is sometimes useful if you want to do a signature. You can select the scribble. You can also update the line width. So if you are making a signature, you can customize this to be different widths as needed. There's also different types of lines that you can use. So you can use the dotted, the dashed, and different patterns for the lines. There's shapes that you can insert, so there's various shapes that are available. There's arrows that you can insert. So these are all going to get inserted into the one image. There's callouts that you can use, and these are just useful to illustrate some of the content that you want it to use. There's also equations. There's text. If you want to insert text, you could insert text by selecting and clicking, and then typing the text that you want to insert, and then that text then you can select, you can update, select it, update the size of it. There's more options with the text, so if you want to underline, bold, italic, you can highlight it, you can select the alignment of the text. There's also the paragraph spacing, if you want to do bulleted lists, numbered lists. So all of these are available. You can also select the font style. So these are the same fonts that you're going to have on your computer, and it allows you to write text into the image. And then there's also an option to add images. So you can select the image, and just as we saw before, where we can go to a Google search and search for an image that we want to use and select that image, and we can bring the image into our image that's being created within the sheet. So just as we saw before, we can download it if we want. And once we've created the image that we want to use, we can save and close, and that's going to add the image as a floating image into the spreadsheet. And then we can resize it as needed, and we've got the same options where we can edit it, we can delete it, we can assign a script to it, or alt text to it. So this can be moved across multiple cells, just as we saw with the chart and the other images that we brought into the sheet content. So under the insert and the chart, pivot table, image, and drawing, there's a lot of different functionality here that you can make use of in order to add more visuals into your spreadsheet content.